Good morning and welcome to the Monday Morning Podcast. I got that wrong already. But this is why you do it, right? Good morning and welcome to the Monday Morning Marketing Podcast. My name is Melanie.
And I'm Esther.
And today I started. And today we're going to be talking about managing a brand online with a team. So Esther, you're a team.
I'm one person in a team. Yes. Yeah. Here at IPA Group, we have a team of 10. I think we're up to now. People who work with us and help us out. So yeah, knowing what to ask your team to do and what they can manage online in terms of your social media is very important. So even though there's 10 of us, not everyone has access to the social media and not everyone posts on social media.
Now, this came about, it's happened to both of us quite recently, but this came about this week because I was approached by somebody who had a very large team, actually, and really wanted to consolidate their presence online. And it got me thinking there must be other businesses that have maybe got 2 or 3 people, it doesn't have to be a very large team, that have lots of different voices and they're not sort of building a brand persona. Now, we've talked about brand personas before, but bringing it out into a team is quite important. So where do we start, Esther?
Well, first of all, I would start with knowing what your brand voice is. Okay, so is it serious? Is it fun? Is it, if anybody else was to jump in your place, would they know that it's still you, or would they think it's still you, or would they know straight away that it's somebody else? Now, I know you do a lot of training around this, Melanie, but you and I also run accounts for other people. We run their social media. And the first thing we have to do is get into their head. You have to know how the person speaks, what they talk about, what topics they're interested in, and basically even how they would write it. If they're from the south of Texas and they say y'all, they probably write y'all as well, So those things would have to come across in the writing on social media. So finding the voice, finding the person, the persona in, having it as part of your ground, that would be your groundwork. Having, like I said, is it really serious? Is it, life and death sort of stuff, or is it fun and upbeat and uplifting?
But now, do you have to stay like that all the time, though? I mean, if you've got a really serious brand, can you ever have a laugh?
Oh yeah, you definitely can. And I mean, we've seen that recently with the Weetabix brand.
Yeah,
if you haven't seen the Weetabix, don't. It's really disgusting. But it was
Weetabix
really good.
And baked beans. Look it up online. Weetabix and baked beans. It's hilarious.
It's really good. But every single brand got on board with that, and they brought out their fun side. Okay, so it's not all about being serious all the time. Okay, there is a time and a place to have your fun side and your laughs. Now, what I would recommend is that you first decide who's going to be in charge of the whole thing, because on your social media
that's two things now. So you got a brand persona and somebody in charge.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
So the person who's in charge will have admin access over all, social media platforms. So say we're talking Facebook and you've got your absolute admin, and the person who claims the page and things like that.
That will be one ring.
Yes. Cool. Right. And then out of those come everybody else that gets added onto the account. So then if somebody was to be sick or leave the company or,
good point. Yeah.
Would it be easy enough to remove them as being admins if they were off for a long extended period of time, or if they stepped away from helping with the social media or running the social media and started in a different part of the company? So those would be, things to think about before you do it. Who would you put in charge? That one person, because if you have more than one, then it's going to be but I would do this. No, but I think we should do that. And it's a back and forth, and you'd waste a lot of time and effort and resources. So just have that one person that you could put in charge. And if it ends up being you being the head of the company, let it be you as the head of the company who says yay or nay to the topics and the themes and the posts that are going out. Now you can then, with your team of, like you said, 23 people, then divide and conquer, right? So who's going to do the images? Who's going to make videos? Who's going to, show their face for the company?
Who's going to respond?
Who's going to respond? Who's going to schedule? Who's going to find curated content? Who's going to be online? All these different things have to be thought out before you even start posting anything.
And have a fallback as well, because as you say, people become sick, go on holiday, leave the company. That happens too.
Yes.
So yeah, you've got to have a fallback as well. But there's so much management involved, isn't there?
Oh,
Especially
absolutely.
when you've got a team, and it doesn't really matter if you've got 3 people or 20 odd people. You still need things in place to manage that team. So as you have a team, Esther, tell us how you would use, and we're not dropping names here because they're giving us any money.
No.
It's just what she currently uses to manage her team.
Yeah. So in the past, we've used things like Asana and Trello and things like that. And now we're using Infinity. So it's startinfinity.com, I want to say. And it's really good because then you can put in your Kanban boards and you can put in your calendars and you can put in Kanban.
What's that?
Right? So it's your lists, basically. So it's doing
Well, why don't you just call it a list?
Because they've got a fancy name. So call it by its fancy name, Kanban. Go look it up.
It makes no sense.
Well, I think it's the person who invented the lists, because you can then move them. Once you've done something, you can move it from the doing to the done.
So Kanban done. Sounds like something you'd get out of a takeaway. Okay, carry on.
There's Kanban boards. There's lists, like just normal lists, like what Melanie and I would look at if we're, when we're deciding what to talk about next. It's like, let's go to the list. Then you can assign topics to each person, or you can assign tasks and dates and different things, and then follow up with messages inside that. So it's all in the one place, and it's all then accessible. If somebody else comes in, then you don't have to go, oh yeah, I was writing that on a piece of paper, and let me just go and look for it in my 23,000 notebooks that I have on my desk. So it's all, it's all there and it's all ready. So if somebody else comes in or if somebody leaves, then it's easy enough to manage that part with the project management.
I like the fact, because as she says, we've got this Infinity section where we work together, and we tick off podcasts we've recorded, and we've put dates when it's going to go out, and it's rather cool. We've got weeks and weeks and weeks of ideas up in advance,
and
which we can then move around as well.
And it keeps us semi-organized,
for us,
and it's the satisfaction of ticking it off as well, isn't it? Of just going, yes, that's done, yes, we've done that. Okay, but I think being organized is half the battle. So if there's somebody that's more into the design and more into, their images and things like that, or they find it that's not one of my strengths. I am not an image finder or a graphic designer.
Noticed.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why we have a graphic designer on our team. But the graphic designer wouldn't have access to to the social media in order to publish stuff or to promote stuff. And then that leads on to another thing. If you're going to be running ads, who's going to have access to that?
Exactly.
Right.
And who's going to be responsible for reporting all the responses to your ads or to your social media in general?
Yeah. So it's a huge, a lot of people might think, oh, it's just Facebook. It's just Instagram. It's just social media. But once you get in and you're starting to pay for things like ads, then it becomes serious.
Yeah, well, it's just a time to think about forward planning. Now, we do bang on about strategy a fair bit on this podcast, and it's purely because it's so essential. We're not suggesting you strategize for the next year. In fact, if anything, we'd recommend you don't.
No.
but look at strategizing or building a framework. Okay, it doesn't have to be a full-blown in and out, up and down strategy for the next 3 months, but it needs to be a damn good framework that you can work from and be accountable for.
Yeah.
And I mean, we would normally do longer strategies, in fairness. We would normally do longer strategies, but because of the current climate, it's not viable.
No. But you can have things in place, like we've talked about this before, daysoftheyear.com, and knowing what
Mm,
certain um like promos and things that you're going to have coming up. If you have a launch date, then you promote that launch date and you stick to that date. It's not as if you're going to be, using the same promo then 3 weeks after the launch date and going, oh, yes, oh, yeah, by the way, we launched already. Did you miss it? So if you've got things that are coming up, then you can use those. But I think first and foremost, when you're setting up your team, it's all about trust.
amen.
Right. And this goes, I mean, we're talking at the minute of people who already have a team. But if you're sitting there listening to us and it's just you will eventually, and we know it's, 99% probable that you will outsource something. And the first thing that usually goes is your social media. So when you
Yes.
outsource that, you are putting that into the hands of someone that you trust.
Well, that's the idea. And it's you've got to remember that the power that you've enabled people with as well. So once they leave, you've got to make sure that they're removed as well. Access is taken away.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Remembering to do that will save you a big headache later.
Well, I think we've covered that fairly well. I just wanted to, enable some larger brands that I do know listen to us, build some real functionality to their strategy, help them build their team and some real understanding. And I knew the best person to bring on board for this was yourself, Esther.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm here every week.
I am. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.